Oh, this recorded its own separate?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's why I have to do it, edit, and after. So we're about to start right now.
Okay.
And we're recording right now.
Cool.
Sweet.
Yay.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My dirty 30.
Dirty 30. Why is it called Dirty 30? Do you know?
No, I have no idea. Actually, I have no idea. I've been thinking about that all day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Dirty martinis?
Oh, yeah. You drink a lot of martinis?
No.
No.
I haven't had a single martini today. I actually don't know why it's the dirty 30.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I don't know.
Okay, well, let's start where you're at now. So some people, I start at the beginning and try and get their life story, but since you're my sister, I already know everything about you for the most part. But let's talk about where you're at now, what you're doing now, and then we can kind of fill in the gaps and people can know where you come from, because what do you do now? You're a teacher at Fortuna High?
Yeah, I teach math. Right now I teach finance and algebra 1B. Last year I taught geometry.
Finance?
Yeah, finance this year.
You're terrible at finance.
I'm great at finance. What are you talking about?
Maybe teaching it.
Yeah, I can teach it wonderfully. My finances in my 20s is
Hold on, you're starting to lose voice. That's why I want to turn this up a little bit. Yeah, try and stay a little bit closer to that thing.
Okay. Do I have to keep my hands up here? I've seen some of the podcasts. Like you guys are all having
keep your hands up here the whole time. Don't move them.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just kidding.
Oh, but they do. I've seen them. You guys are like this.
You can play.
Okay. All right. I'll sit up the whole time.
Okay. So teaching 8th grade or no, high school?
High school. Mm-hmm.
What grade?
So finance is only juniors and seniors.
Oh.
Yeah. And then my algebra 1B is a minimum of like sophomores, because they have to have algebra 1A. They're at least their freshman year. Mm-hmm. So sophomores, some juniors.
Mm-hmm. And are you full-time, part-time? I know. How does that even work?
So this year I'm part-time. So last year I took over a teacher who had been let go mid-semester. So it was full-time. Yeah. But then this year they didn't have enough students to create enough classes. So then because I'm the newest one on the totem pole, they made me part-time. What they used to do is they used to pink slip you. So like the newest teachers would get pink slipped and they would be maybe let go and maybe brought on at the beginning of the school year. But now they try to just take a unit off of different teachers so that no one gets necessarily like fired, but they might be part-time. So I'm just one class short. So I am 0.8 of a 1.0 full-time job.
Huh. And so do they pay you as if you're a 0.5?
No, they pay me as a 0.8.
Oh,
but
okay.
so I had my 1.0 salary, whatever that base salary was. And then this year it's 0.8 of that salary. And I'm just one class short. But it's kind of nice though, because they gave me first through fourth period as fifth period prep. So some days I can go early at 12:30. Some days I stay later, or if I want to prep longer, or if we have meetings, then I'll stay later. But they're really flexible on that, which is kind of nice.
So sometimes you're done by noon?
Yeah, 12:30. Yeah, I know.
That's what's up.
I can't complain. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
The salary I get at getting off at 12:30, I'm not complaining.
You want to tell a story about the guy that got fired?
No, I don't want to go there. I don't even know where he's at, to be honest. I have no idea. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
he was just let go. He just wasn't a good fit. He started at the beginning of the year, and then he wasn't a good fit.
Oh, he was only there for that?
Yeah, he was only there for that semester, and he just wasn't a good fit at all, so they had to let him go. I have no idea where he's at. I don't know anything, but I just know there was a position open, and I just swooped right in and took over, which was kind of crazy because I hadn't ever taught before, and to come in taking over another teacher and where they had left off, and during the transition, the students had actually had to go to other teachers as subs for those like few weeks. So they had one teacher, and then they had another teacher, and then they had me come in and trying to set up like a classroom management system or a culture in that class. It was actually really difficult. But it was challenging, but it was worth it. But this year has been it's been a breeze compared to last year.
Yeah. So talk a little bit more about that, about what you had to do specifically to prepare for the class, what the challenges that you had to overcome, like what's, and also like how harsh that environment is to actually become a teacher and get into, like, because this is a small community up here, so there's not a lot of openings for you to, like, it was unfortunate that dude did whatever he did, that old teacher, but you got that opportunity. How did all that kind of unfold?
Yeah. Well, I was actually working at CR as the academic advisor for Upward Bound. So my students that I advised were some at Fortuna High and some at Eureka High. So I was already there, and I'd already been subbing at Fortuna High for a couple of years. And I was a previous Fortuna High graduate. So I know a lot of the teachers there and the principal there. And I had just heard that this position was open. So I had actually just went and asked about it, about the position being open. And because there are at the time, there were no qualified teachers who were in math who were applying for the position. So it created a need for that position. Mm-hmm. So the only way I was able to get it was to apply for a waiver, and they had to prove that they had done their due diligence to get someone else in that position. And because it was mid-year, it was really difficult. So actually, it was just almost kind of like by pure luck that I was able to get that job. It was just like divine intervention and pure luck that it opened up, and I was able just to swoop right into it.
Yeah. But that just reminds me of, like, when people say it's luck, it's not only is it a little bit of luck, but it's when the preparation meets opportunity. Yeah, the opportunity arose and you were prepared for it. So anybody else could have been lucky, but they weren't prepared, and they weren't in that, and they didn't have that opportunity to them. So you definitely, you were able to fucking swoop.
Yeah, I was. I just swooped right in, and it happened to be right before we went on winter break. So I essentially I met with a department head, and she was like, here's some of your materials. Here's what the classroom looks like. And, like, take the next couple weeks and kind of prepare. So I only really had like the couple weeks to kind of even get mentally prepared. Like, okay, what did I just get myself into? Like, what am I about to do right now? And when you go in, there's that honeymoon stage. So with the students at first, it was like, oh, new teacher, so exciting. She's so nice. And I was like, the kids are so nice. It's like a really honeymoon stage. And then it goes crazy, and they start acting out, and they're like, what can we get away with?
They're like, oh,
like, oh, what can we get away with? What can we do? And they actually had their own culture that really showed through. And I didn't even realize it until starting this year. And when I was able to create my culture, or our culture in my classes now, that the students, even though I had tried to intervene as much as I could and had really good classroom management, the students still had their own culture that they carried on from the beginning of the school year. So it was pretty interesting. But
like, in what way?
Just their own classroom dynamic, just between themselves. Like if there was some, hyper ones or some class clowns, like that kind of stuff. I was able to manage that. And actually I had a sub one time, and the sub had to call in the vice principal that day, and they had to come in and intervene. So they definitely have their own culture. But it's interesting because even though I went through such a difficult time, like with those students, and there were so many times I went home and was like, is this right for me? Like, what am I doing? I'm so tired, and I'm just trying so hard. And like, sometimes they give me a really hard time. That's so crazy to me, because those same group of students come and see me almost every day in my classroom to this day. And I don't even have them as my students. And they come in. I have about a handful of like eight or so that come in and see me every day. So
just to say what's up?
Just to say hi in between passing classes. Sometimes they'll have classes in D or another building, and they'll come and see me. And they'll be like, I'm going to be late, but I just wanted to come see you. And they come see me every day between classes. Morning, break, lunch, every day.
What do you guys talk about?
I don't know. I just ask them how their day is going, or how their classes are going, and make sure they're doing good. But they just, it's kind of like having children. So I read this happiness book, and it says, when you're raising children, a lot of the day to day is like frustrating and exhausting and so tiring. But when you look back on your childbearing days, it's just, there's such a purpose that was fulfilled, and it feels so happy. And lighthearted and you wouldn't take it back for anything. So it's kind of like that. Like I had so much challenge on the day to day, because I had 2 classes of geometry, so they were freshmen. So they're kind of like, they have more
like 13, 14.
They're very active. Yeah. And
just hit puberty.
Yeah,
they're going
and they're
crazy.
just crazy. Yeah. And like that, so the challenge, like I wanted to pull my hair out, but they were like my kids, and then I got really, really close with them. So they're the ones that come see me every day. So it's like, it's kind of like that. If you can think about it. I know you don't have kids, but like, it's kind of like that.
But it kind of makes sense. Like even because you don't know if they had, troubles at home. So they come in and you're super nice to them and you encourage them and you give them and you help them in any way that you can. And they just see you and they're like, wow, you're such a support system for them.
Yeah. Some of them do. Yeah. Some of them, there's been a couple of them that have like opened up, which I'm sure they do with other teachers, but yeah. Yeah, they've come in and opened up. But
so how's that culture work with like getting into a teaching position? Because I would guess that teachers, obviously you guys don't get paid enough for what you take on, but there is that sacrifice that you have the opportunity to lead and help kids.
Yeah.
Whereas in, me in a typical job, like I'm just dealing with normal people, whereas in you get to deal with youth, which is in of itself, that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I was actually thinking about this earlier. And I was thinking, so this morning on my drive up to HSU, I was reflecting on my last 30 years and thinking how much absolute shit it was. How much shit my last 30 years has been. And how much, mediocrity there's been, just
lack
average.
of fulfillment.
Yeah, lack of fulfillment, average. Everyone has regrets and guilt and shame with things that they've done in their past or their younger age or whatever. But most of the shit, when I think about it and think about like, oh God, it's been crap for the past 30 years, is because it's been so mediocre compared to what I had thought my life was going to be. And I really want to do like great things. Like I want to accomplish great things. And I always thought of myself as doing big, grand things, traveling to great places, seeing great people, meeting amazing type people and having these big things happen. And then I think, well, I'm in teaching and I'm definitely not going to get rich by teaching, and I thought I would be rich and I still want to be rich, but like there's something that pulls me towards teaching and like I love these kids so much and I love what I do. And even subbing, I loved subbing more than any other job I've ever had. But I realized that I think that teaching is going to be a vessel for something where I could do something great, and I don't know what that would be. I don't know if it's going to be like a research opportunity in the future or what that will be, but I strongly feel like it's going to be a vessel for me to really do something great. And I don't know if it's, maybe to change the face of teaching and the way it is or some strategies. Right now I'm working with a few seniors and a couple awesome teachers on creating 2 big mural projects at Fortuna High. We don't have any murals except for in the art building. There's some, but as far as like the main buildings go, we don't have any. And right now I'm working on with them to create a grant and bring in outside artists that maybe previously gone to Fortuna High to create like a big mural on senior lawn. So that's my first step.
Yeah. Well, I think that what you're saying about the vessel teaching, I mean, all the greats in any industry and any niche that you can think of, they teach people. Like Bill Gates, he teaches people.
Yeah, that's true.
In his own way, he might not be a teacher, but he definitely teaches people.
Yeah.
Like Grant Cardone, there you go.
Yeah. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, everyone.
You're right.
Yeah, so teaching is one of those like awesome things of life, you know, like the ability to teach,
to pass on that knowledge, which is why I love my finance class so much this year, because I feel like I've made some financial mistakes in my 20s and I'm like trying to pass that along and be like, don't do what I did, read that fine print, or I'm teaching them Excel right now.
Don't buy that expensive car.
Yeah, don't go out and get that car. Budget in Excel and know what kind of know what you're getting yourself into. And so I'm like been super passionate about that class particularly.
How do you feel about the curriculum in high school these days? Like, I know I would have greatly appreciated it if there was like more classes around the day-to-day adulthood that you have to deal with rather than geometry,
Yeah.
you know, or like anything like that. Do you feel
I agree.
they should kind of cut back on some of that old-fashioned stuff and maybe implement new stuff like how to do taxes and how to do all that kind of stuff?
No, I think that old-fashioned stuff is definitely necessary. I think algebra, I think we just have to really do a good job, and I think a lot of teachers do a great job of applying that to real-world things, you know? Like we could do algebra in Excel, actually, and I'm not going to go into detail, but I think all of those are definitely necessary, but I think integrating the real world with that is the next, I think, where we're going. And I've seen a lot of teachers at Fortuna High even do it, where a lot of them will do research projects and go out and ask people questions in different fields. I was actually asked when I was working for CR to come in and be a guest speaker for an ag business class for what I do. So they do that a lot. And I think that kind of goes behind the scenes. I don't think a lot of people realize that a lot of the English and other classes, they actually really do integrate that. And I think what people mean, though, is like maybe specific classes for the real world. Like, you know how back in the day they used to have, what's that? Like they had home economic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
For
I
like
don't
cooking
think,
and things.
yeah, and cooking and it was like sewing and that kind of stuff. And I don't know that they have that as much, but that's one thing I do wish they would bring back. So I feel like I would really love to teach a computer-based course that has some like Excel and computer basics that I think, you know, I'm not sure about the rest of the United States, but I don't think there's one at Fortuna High that's like a computer basics class, and they used to have that. And I think finance, like if you were going to go to a 4-year university, finance is not required. Algebra 2 is required, which I think should still be required. But I almost feel like finance or something like that could be a requirement maybe for all students to pass, you know, just kind of like driver's ed before you get your driver's license kind of thing.
How do you feel about, so if you were to teach high school kids about finance and they get a good grasp of what it means to be financially literate, and then you're like, okay, well, now you get to take out a loan and go to university. And they're like, well, financially, that's, you know, that doesn't really make sense. What are you talking about? You think there's some kind of thing there?
No, I think there's been a big push for trade schools, and I think that's awesome because there's been a lot more of a push. Not every student needs to go to a 2-year or 4-year university.
Yeah. How often do you have colleges come to the high school and recruit or whatever they want to call it? All the time, right?
We just had a lady named Karen come on Tuesday to talk about the CSU process in the library. We just had the Marines on campus just the other day. Just saw some kids trying to do some pull-ups. So when we have our fun events, like we'll have Marines and different trades come. Today actually is a resource rally down in Scotia. So I have a lot of kids who were out today, including myself, but they're down in Scotia doing a resource rally. So learning about different trade jobs or, that's correct, so right? Trade jobs, trades, different trades. Yeah. In that industry down in Scotia today. So yeah, there's a lot. And I think that every teacher and counselors, you know, I think we do a good job of encouraging our students to I don't feel that we push them to go to that 4-year university route, you know.
But you give them all the exposure that you possibly can, so they know that there's more options out there. Yeah. And there's more avenues towards success.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. And I think there's been more of a push for that. And I think that's great. Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's just so funny that you're in this position now where you're teaching.
I know.
Because I mean, the rest of our family is pretty much teachers, right? Like a lot of our cousins and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just,
we have 2, 3, 4 cousins, and one of their, like a cousin-in-law whose parent is a teacher. Yeah. It's funny because I actually used to want
influence on you.
I don't know. No, I don't know. I honestly, okay, I think it was an influence in a way, but let me explain this. So when I was a freshman in high school, I remember I wanted to be just like Sandra Dale. Miss Dale was the coolest ag teacher ever. And I was like, I want to be just like her. I want to be charismatic like her. I want to belong like her. I want people to love me like her. I want to tell jokes like her. You know, I wanted to be her. And I don't even know if she knows that, but like,
Is she still there now?
Yeah, she's in the district office. She does different things. She's a little behind the scenes, but she's still there. Yeah. I still say hi to her. But, I love the ag department so much. Like that community feel is like what I wanted. And I was like, I want to come back to campus and be the teacher that goes to homecoming and is included in all these events. And like, I want to love these kids. And, so I actually used to always want to be a teacher among the many other things I wanted to do, like real estate, even back then, real estate and many things. But our grandma said, teachers don't make enough money. You do not want to be a teacher. Your cousins work hard. They don't make enough money. And kind of like discouraged me from doing it and said, just get a degree first. You can always go back to teaching was the thought. Which is true. You can always, fall back on teaching. Get your degree first.
You still have to have a degree to teach, though.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
And then you usually go into a teaching credential program. Little did I know, because I've been trying to be a teacher for years. I applied for the program a few years ago and got rejected, actually, because the hoops in the state of California are so ridiculous to get through and the requirements that little did I know that even though I had a master's in business, if it didn't directly line up with a teaching credential in math, that there was going to be a lot of hoops to jump through. And originally it was science. And then that's why I was rejected, because I didn't have enough of a science background to teach high school science. So yeah, so it's been kind of like a path. It's just interesting because I just found my way to where I am at right now. And that's like kind of what I wanted from freshman year of high school. So it's weird. I think of it this way. I was pursuing somebody else's dream that wasn't mine. Getting grandma's.
By just, okay.
Yeah. She was like, you need to be rich. And just, she
at least she said that.
Loved Donald Trump back before he was president. Oh my God. He was the greatest thing ever. She would just repeat Donald Trump's thing. Cause what was that show he used to be on?
You're fired. Yes, I don't
remember, but him and Suze Orman, and just like, if you're making less than 6 figures a year, you're worthless. You need, and one of the biggest fights we ever got into is when I told her I wanted to go to CR and not a 4-year university. One of the biggest fights we ever got into. So, which I understand, we were very low income. She didn't want me to live the way we were living.
Yeah, she didn't want you to be broke.
Yeah. So
it's so I feel like she had a good justification for what she was telling you.
Yeah.
But she didn't have the knowledge in how to expose you to what true success is, and that doesn't mean numbers in your bank account.
Yeah.
It really means happiness and financial stability or freedom.
Right.
And so do you feel that as you got older, because I noticed this in my own life, is like the more you get older, the more you realize the bullshit people are spouting out their mouth, and then you're like, okay, now you can recognize the bullshit a little bit more quickly.
Yeah.
You don't buy into it as quickly. And then now as you're getting older, you're like, well, this is what I wanted to do. But before, you were just so blindsided to it because grandma or whoever outside was like, no, don't do that, do this. And you're like, okay, well, I'll listen to you because you're my elder or whatever. But now you're just like, wait, that's not true. It's partially true. There was some truth there, but that's not, that wasn't the whole message that you needed to receive.
Yeah. Yeah. She just didn't go about it in a way, she went about it in a way that she could do best, but not in a way of, Heather, what do you really love to do? Mm-hmm. What are your skills?
Never an open-ended question.
Never, let me praise you for who you are. Let me just brag to the family about your good grades and your leadership, positions in FFA, and let me just recognize you for that, but not recognize you for who you are, which is one of the things when I went and spoke to the ag business class that I told the students, like, you know, you're going to be told many different things and many different, you should do this, or maybe you'll like doing this, but think about what you enjoy on a day to day, what you really enjoy, and think about how that could look in a career, you know, like, and what you enjoy on a day to day now, you would like if that's, you know, in a career that would fit you. And I really wish someone would have seen me for me, because I was trying to live up this expectation of I'm the one that gets good grades and I'm going to be an accountant and make lots of money, and went in a route that wasn't my dream, wasn't mine. If I could go back, I would have went straight to being a teacher or physics or neuroscience or something totally different than business. And I love business. Don't get me wrong. I do like it. I do love it. But it's not the degree I would have pursued at all.
Yeah, I think it's funny too. Like, a lot of people, they realize what they like by the time high school comes around.
Yeah.
You know, they've had, you know, throughout elementary school and middle school, you have a lot of exposure to a lot of different things, especially now, or we even had the internet when, when we were in grade school. So you get that exposure and you sense that. Like, I wanted to be a fighter ever since I saw like Chuck Liddell back when it was on a Blockbuster thing, and we were with Dad. Yeah, we went into a Blockbuster store and I saw Chuck Liddell cage fighting. I was like, that's it. This is so awesome. This is so cool. You couldn't even watch it because you had to be 18 to rent it. So I just saw the cover of it, and that's crazy. Yeah,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, throughout grade school, like I saw the fights on TV or whenever I could get it, and I was just like, that's so cool. It was like, it captivated me. Yeah. But then when I would tell other people about it, everyone would shut me down. Like, oh, you can't be a cage fighter, this, that, the other reason. So it just kind of left my brain all the way up until I joined the Army. And then I was like, I still want to fight. Like, that's something I still want to do. And now that I'm doing it, like, I was like, man, if I only had the right cultivation. Support.
Yeah. Or just someone to bring about, like, what do you enjoy? What do you want to try to do? And I tell the kids that, like, what, not only like what,
that's probably why they're attracted to you so much too, is because you open that freedom to them to where it's like, it's okay to be you and accept you, and you pursue what you find happiness, and they're probably not getting that anywhere else. You know, in some cases.
And I get that, like, you know, parents and grandma in our case, like, just wanted the best, but they project a lot. You know, they project. Like, everyone projects, but grandma in our case projected, like, she didn't want to be living in our poor situation in a 1-bedroom apartment with 2 adults. So she projected that onto me, and I, you know, with my vulnerable brain, took that in. And I, you know, so I sometimes try to tell my students, like, you're not just that great football player, for example, or you're not just a wrestler, or you're not just a tennis player. You are so many more things. You know, that might be something that you're really known for, but you're not just that. Like, there, you know, what do you, I know it sounds so cliche, but, like, what do you like to do?
Right.
What do you enjoy doing? Because if you like reading and research, you're probably going to love a career that includes those things, and you might hate a career that doesn't include that, you know, like, it's, and no one ever asked me that in high school. It's so crazy. Like, I didn't have a single adult ever be like, who are you? You know, like, the real you.
Right.
Like, you know, it's just crazy.
Yeah. I'm curious if you'll stay in teaching for any length of time. Like, you think you'll be in it for the next 10, 15, 20 years?
Yeah. You know, I mean, I'm trying. I'm working on there's still a lot of hoops to get through to, like, secure my position. But
oh yeah, you don't have tenure, right?
Well, I don't have a teaching credential yet. I still am working on getting the credentials. So there's a new pathway that California has opened up to where you can get a job as a working teacher and do an internship and get a credential while you're working as a teacher. Yeah. But I see myself, if I stay in it, once I secure the position and to go full time, then I would really like to keep advancing professionally. So, like, one of the things that I learned about myself that I love to do is I love to learn and I have an entrepreneur spirit, and I really like research and learning. So I see myself like taking on big research tasks.
Yeah, every
or
big
something.
project that comes your way. Like,
Yeah,
got
it. You know, or maybe one day, I don't know about being a principal or superintendent, but maybe I could see myself like touring the country and giving TED Talks on something, we discovered for like a new teaching strategy, or changing the face of what the classroom looks like in desks. And, I have no idea what that'll look like. I don't know. But I know that the 1900s classroom and the classroom of today with the desks and the chalkboard kind of look similar. And I've seen some TED Talks talking about like, how can we change that? Or, what is the
Talking about like everyone sitting in a circle facing each other.
Yeah.
Right.
There's been different ways. Like my desks are in groups, like groups of 4. So it's not, my desks are not in rows. And that's changed for a lot of classrooms. They're in desks or groups of 4 and not in rows anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
I haven't had that since 5th grade.
Yeah.
Was the last time
awesome.
we were sat in groups.
Yeah.
And you're doing that in high school? Mm-hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah. Because I think back, I adopted that from the other teachers going in.
Right.
But I think back to my master's program, which was like the best year of my entire life ever. It was awesome. But because there was so much higher cognitive thinking and group discussions, and it wasn't just crunching numbers, by the time you get to the master's degree in business, you're thinking about like the big picture, the systematic processes, and you're working in groups and discussions, and that's how the learning gets more concrete in your head. And so to even start that in the high school setting in the groups, the working and talking about different things, I think is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
more communication the better.
Yeah, but pretty interesting. But I'm still pursuing other things. Like, I still want to be a realtor.
Yeah.
I still want to be a photographer. So it's weird because I want to teach, but I still have this like crazy entrepreneurial, like, I'm not done yet accomplishing things, or I'm not done, achieving degrees. And like, I don't know, that spirit is still, it's weird.
Well, it's a good thing you get off at noon then.
I know. It is.
Yeah, go take pictures.
Yeah, I took a 3-hour exam today, and I've been studying every day for it. So it's a good thing where I can go take pictures. And yeah, it's been awesome because I took pictures of our first home game at Fortuna High for football, which is cool. It was just really cool. And maybe one of those will end up in the yearbook, and it'll be so awesome.
That is awesome. Mm-hmm. And so photography, you just found that recently. Yeah, I just saw you bought a camera a couple months ago.
Yeah, over the summer. Well, our cousin's also a photographer too.
Right.
And I was helping her out with some things, and we were going to like beautiful scenery, and I was like, this is amazing, and I want to take pictures of where we're at right now. And so I kind of thought like, oh, just for a hobby, like I want to go try to get a camera and take pictures of landscapes. And then I really discovered that I love taking pictures of flowers, like up close things. Randomly, I didn't think I would. I went on only for landscapes, and then was like,
"This is so cool.
This flower is so awesome, and I can concentrate, and it's challenging." And it was like,
and you don't do any drugs.
No drugs. Like that gives me my drug fix. It's like so cool. And then I took a sports, like a picture for a CR football game or scrimmage that they had in Reading, and was like, this is the coolest thing ever. This is so fun. Like, I can really see up close. It's kind of like having binoculars on the field, but you don't look weird, like I can see everything. I was like, I can follow exactly where the ball's going and get some awesome shots, and so cool. So then I really was like, wow, I never really played sports, but I love photographing it. Like, it's so awesome.
Well,
and
humans we're addicted to movement, or attracted, I should say.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Like moths to light, kind of?
Pretty much, yeah. We love movement. That's why we like watching tennis.
What?
Yeah.
I do not like. Speak for yourself. Are you serious?
You wouldn't go to the Wimbledon and watch Serena Williams play tennis?
Oh, yeah, I probably would.
Yeah, you
would.
would.
I would, yeah.
And you would be so pumped about it because there's so much drama going on and there's movement. That's why sports is just, it's like the most attractive thing in the world, is because you see movement. We love watching. We like watch fighting, dancing, running. We watch people run. We watch people play golf.
Yeah.
Just because stuff moves.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I loved photographing your fights actually too. Oh my gosh. That brought your fight to a whole nother level. That was so awesome.
Yeah.
I wish the pictures had turned out better, but I'm still working on like, you just need really high quality stuff.
Well, the whole venue is incredibly dark except for the ring, which is incredibly bright. It's in your face when you're trying to throw a punch.
Yeah.
And you're just, you don't realize it. And you get in there like, holy shit, this is bright. But, yeah, it'd be cool if you can get up like on the cage.
I know. Yeah. I feel like my photos would have been a lot better had I had that opportunity. Mm-hmm. But, I take what I can get. But it was awesome. It was really cool.
So for photography. Mm-hmm. So for those of people that are listening that don't know, you and I grew up separately.
Yeah.
So you grew up here in Humboldt. I grew up down in Lake County.
Yeah.
For the most part, I know you did a couple years in Alaska, but talk about that. So you went to Rio Dell.
Yeah, I went to Rio
elementary.
Dell. Yeah. So
what year? You were 9, right? 8 or 9 when you moved to Rio Dell?
I think I was like 10.
10, okay.
Yeah, I think we were 10 because you and I lived in Covelo for a few years with Grandma.
Yeah.
And I think that was my 10th birthday in Covelo when like no one showed up.
Oh, yeah, I remember
and I
your
cried.
face. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I
then
remember that
two
you were
girls
wearing
showed up.
like a blue dress. I remember it vividly.
Remember that?
Yeah, because I was like, why are you crying so much? Like, I had no idea. I was just sitting there playing my little casino thing,
Yeah.
And I was just like, looked up and you were just red in the face and bawling. I'm like, what? Why are you crying? Like, no one showed up. And then you said because it was some native holiday that everyone went to that native holiday thingy where they're all dancing. And then to me, I was like, well, that would make sense. Like,
yeah, we're in
but
Covelo.
you just couldn't.
Yeah, but when you're 10 years old and at a new school, like
Right.
it's crazy. But 2 girls wound up showing up, but late after the event.
Yeah.
And then it was like a great time, I remember. But that was horrific. I still remember that day. That was horrible.
Yeah.
And that was awful. But I remember I was double digits that day because it was awful. And I remember, so it was definitely like 10 or 11 when you had moved back with Mom and I had moved up to a new school and went to Rio Dell Elementary in 6th grade. And then the Monument Middle School became a new middle school, which is still there to this day, my 7th grade year. So my 7th grade, I had moved physically to a new school across the parking lot, but at the same school. But yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then from there, from Rio Dell, did Fortuna High.
Yeah.
Stayed Fortuna High, went to CR.
CR for 2 years, stayed, went to HSU.
Never left.
I never left. Been here ever since.
And so was that kind of all of a blur to you because you just kind of stayed in the same spot the whole time? Because I went different places, obviously, but
no.
How was your experience growing up in Humboldt? Was it just, I mean, it's hard because you didn't go anywhere else, so you can't really compare it, right?
Yeah.
You have no other comparison.
It was mediocre.
Well, let's say, okay, so you went to Alaska then, right? In 8th
I went to
grade?
Alaska for 8th grade. Yeah. Went up there.
For 1 year?
Yeah.
And then,
so Grandma said, oh, you're going to go visit your family members in Alaska. I get up there. I'm like, oh, this place is awesome. Get a call. Surprise. I'm secretly moving your stuff up there while you're up there. Packing your boxes right now. We're moving up there. She came. Obviously, I rebelled. Said,
oh my God.
Yeah, next summer.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I got 1,000% got a call. Surprise.
While you're already up there.
While you're up there. I'm packing your boxes. We're moving up there.
Man.
While I'm in Alaska, says, oh, I'm kicking you out.
Because you probably wouldn't have got on the plane if she had told you before.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. I started to rebel as I'm up there. She's like, surprise, I'm kicking you out to go live next door with your aunt and uncle. As I'm living with them, thinking I'm going to live with them for the rest of the high school career, I'm happy. Surprise, we're kicking you out to go live back with your grandma because she secretly wanted you the whole time, but you were just being a handful for her. So surprise, you're getting back. Okay. Next summer comes around. The next summer comes around. Oh, you're going to go down and visit your aunt and uncle back home. You're going to see all your old friends from Rio Dell. As I'm down here camping, not her, but my aunt and uncle and our cousin says, surprise, you're moving back down here. Your grandma's packing up your stuff right now as we speak, and you're not going to live with her. You're moving in with us. We're going to go pick out your paint color for your bedroom today. Wonderful. Yeah.
Fucking A.
Couple years into that, surprise, we're kicking you out and you're going to live back with your grandma. At 17, surprise, kicking you out. Find your own way.
Man, there's a silver lining in there somewhere. I know
man. Oh, I have no idea. Of years of therapy.
Yeah.
Seriously, though.
But I feel you're a stronger person.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah. There's some kind of resilience that's been in there. But like, yeah, that's no joke. That's literally how it went. So then, but basically been in Humboldt since my freshman year. And just, yeah, I don't know. I just always had visions of moving away and doing great things. And then Ryder came along, and there was always something in me that was like, I need to prioritize being a mom over running away from.
How old were you when you had Ryder? You're like 20.
I was 20 when I got pregnant, and then 21 when I had him. So on my 21st birthday, guys, this is interesting because it's my 30th. 21st birthday, we were in Reno. I was fully pregnant, like out to here.
Yeah.
Walked up to a bar, told everybody go away so I can get ID'd and get questioned because I'm pregnant. Sit at the bar. I order a drink. The guy doesn't even question me, nor does he even ID me. And I was like, the heck? I'm not 8 months pregnant on my 21st birthday. I didn't get ID'd or questioned at all.
Yeah.
I think the guy was like, I'm just going to ignore this right now and serve you your drink. But I wasn't going to drink it. It was for somebody else.
Well, it could be, Nevada state law. Who knows what they do?
I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, but that was my 21st birthday. I was 8 months pregnant. So then I had him at 21.
And you were still going to HSU at the time?
Yeah, walking those hills. It was insane. Yeah, I was. It was crazy. And then took a semester off and then went back and finished with him when I had him and finished up. So, yeah.
Perseverance.
Yeah, and then did the master's degree, with just him and just a single mom trucking away at the master's degree. Yeah, so there's always been a resilience and always been an urge to want to keep doing things within the capacity that I can. I can't just get up and move to New York and be a CEO at a big hotshot company. It's just not within the capacity of what I can do, but.
I'm sure it is, but it's not, the sacrifice that you have to make isn't worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not worth it. Right. So, yeah.
So you have to find that medium of what you can do. And
yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So, yeah, I know, especially with Ryder and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you want to tell that story about 7th grade?
Yeah.
Because, it was, it's not only is it troubling what happened, but it's reflective of how some people grow up and there's things missing in their life, whatever it may be, and it was contributed to a memory that they could have blocked out when they were younger. And, in your case, you didn't even realize it until later.
Yeah.
Even in that's happened a lot to me too, where I'm just like, oh, that's why.
Yeah.
Oh, ding,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I'll start the story and then you can just kind of fill it in. So in middle school, when you were being a little bitch, you were a bully.
Yes, I was.
And
yeah, I was.
Not because you're a bad person, because I really don't think bullies are bad people.
Yeah.
I just think,
I'm not.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
they're not. They're traumatized.
They're traumatized. There's something that they just don't have the exposure to the kind of love that they need. Mm-hmm. And in whatever way that they rebel, in some way they find someone that's weaker than them and they project it onto them.
Yeah.
And so what happened with you? So start there. So during 7th grade, you were being mean to people.
Yeah.
For whatever reason that was.
I was. Yeah, actually. I had.
Were you just being verbally rude?
Well, every time I get angry, I still do it to this day, just not nearly as bad, but I would lash and I would say the meanest, darkest, deepest things. Even when you and I got in a fight, I'd be like, our mom hates you. Mm-hmm. And you'd be like, oh, does she?
I don't remember it like that, but I get the gist.
Or grandma likes me better,
Yeah,
just
but she liked
really
me better.
mean.
Yeah.
I think she did, but mean, just
mm-hmm.
Cut real deep. And I was quick to get angry and I was just always hurt. And you have to think I went through all this rejection, mom, kind of, I don't know, I'm not going to go into our deep past, but a lot of rejection within that. And then
you're going through that puberty phase.
Yeah. And the puberty phase. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's when it hit. And there was a lot of shipping from family member to family member to Covelo to, Riedel to like different schools. And, at one point you and I lived in a homeless shelter for children in San Jose in the city, no one really even knows that. I mean, so there was just so much of that going on and so much of, I didn't know how to deal with that. And so I just lashed out in anger. And, so to my friends, it was like, I only remember one time, but I remember one of my friends at a dance, she was really upset. And I think I said some mean things to her and like made her cry. But yeah, I was essentially like a bully. And I had my one best friend who was not a bully at all, but she was just my best friend. And yeah, I hate to say it, but definitely had a lot of anger, was definitely like a school bully for females, like a female bully. And essentially what happened, and I'll start with the most recent and then kind of back up. But like I was telling you today at lunch, that I had forgot about this day for years. And then back in, I think the summer of 2017, when our friends were getting married, one of my friends from 7th grade said, "Oh my gosh, remember you used to be such a bully and like now we like you, but you were such a bully. Remember that one time in Miss Steiner's class?" And I had totally stuffed it away and forgot all about it until she brought that up. And I like kind of laughed with her and was like, "Oh yeah." And then whoom, like the overwhelming, like all the feelings came back up, and I had to take it into therapy and it just made all the connections that happened over the years. So let me start with the story. It was 7th grade in Miss Steiner's class at Rio Del Monument Middle School. And one sunny day, she had said, "Okay, I need all you boys to go out and you need to play out in the recess field." And oh my gosh, my heart is racing even just thinking about like, this is how, like, just to say it out loud is a lot. But I need all you boys to go outside in the recess field, and I need all the girls to stay in here. Well, the boys could come around and see inside the classroom window. So all of them were appearing, and there was cracks in the window so they can hear us, and they're all looking in the window. So I can see all their faces, all the boys' faces in the window over there. And the teacher said, "Okay, Heather, I need you to stand in front of the class." And at first I think it was with my best friend at the time, and then eventually she sat down. So I was the only one left standing in front of the class. All the girls.
Was your best friend like a bully partner in crime or
no?
A
she
victim?
was just probably like a victim. Yeah,
Okay.
She's just there by default,
right? Just to get you up there.
Yeah. She was not a part of it at all whatsoever. Sweetest girl ever. Like would never hurt a fly. Like she just was my friend. I think eventually she stood up and then eventually she sat down. I think that's how it went. But I just remember her being somewhere nearby, but me at the front of the class and the whole class in front of me. And she said, "Okay, let's tell Heather everything horrific that she's done lately. Let's all, say to Heather what we want to say to her and bring out everything on the table." And it was like, "You did this and I didn't like when you did this." And at first it was kind of like, I was like defending myself and was like, "Okay, but this, and I was hurt by this." And it was like, and then it just became a gang of girls. If you can think of like Lord of the Flies, like that. And it was like, it felt, although it's my perception, I understand that perception is everything. But as my perception as a 11, 12-year-old girl standing in the front of a room, never even public spoke before, having to defend myself to a group of girls who thought of me as a bully, and a teacher, an adult, someone I'm supposed to trust, sitting at her desk, amused by this, and a group of boys leering in from a window, laughing. And I'm overwhelmed. The lights are bright. It's hot. I'm starting to cry. I'm getting frustrated tears because it was like the rest of the day long. I mean, it wasn't just like 10 minutes. It was like over an hour, I assume, or longer. And some of them, a lot of them were true. A lot of the girls were saying, was like, "You're really mean. You did this. You're so mean. You said that and you made me cry." And yeah, that was true. And I remember one time, one of the girls said something that was not true at all. And I don't know if it was her perception or if she just wanted to chime in. But I remember in that moment being like, that's not true. That's not true. And crying, and no one believed me. I mean, I was being criticized and I had to defend myself in front of a group, all while an adult that I was supposed to have trust in did nothing to stand up for me at all.
Yeah.
And by the end of the class, we were like all crying. And then it was like, okay, everybody a hug. And I think it was like, this is a good thing. And the boys came in and was like, what was all that about? Ha ha ha, laughing and joking. And I mean, it was like traumatic. I mean, horribly. I can't even imagine myself doing that to one of my students. The shame and the guilt that I would feel to ever pull and single one of my students and bring them up at the front of the class and have the rest of the class leer and jerk and berate and criticize and just when they're going through, like, they're in the foster system, like, I would never do that. I would cry for days, like, for the hurt and the pain. Like,
do you think her intention was evil, or do you think that it was like, well, this is going to be good?
No, I think in part it was like, this is going to be good. And I think it was projecting. I think adults have a lot of emotional fucked up issues. And I think I'm only assuming I would not want to be her. I don't want to live her life. And I'm only assuming she probably projected onto me and probably didn't like me as a bully. I'm sure,
Yeah.
and projected, maybe she was bullied when she was younger, or maybe she was bullied by her parents and, and in her justifiable case, I'm sure she justified it in some way. I don't know, but,
And so you didn't have any outlet, right?
I didn't have any outlet.
Talk to anybody?
I didn't talk to anybody about it. No.
You just muffled it.
I muffled it. And that summer I moved away. I mean, that very summer is when grandma moved me to Alaska. And then I had to deal with it up there. And then when I moved back, I remember thinking like, oh my God, no one's going to like me. And I was going straight into high school. So I didn't have 8th grade with him, but I went straight into high school and was like, I just need to be nice to everybody. Yeah.
So the same girls
were in high school, but it's all new people because there's lots of other students from different schools all around.
Right.
And but you
still saw some of those girls. Yeah.
And by that time, I wasn't a bully anymore. I'd actually reached out for a lot of self-help books in 8th grade and read a lot of, started reading the Bible and tried to work on myself. I just turned to myself to like do what I could. And so it was helpful in a way that.
When did you find that kind of revert? Do you think that was a catalyst perhaps?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah. So it was helpful in that way. Definitely 1,000%, because I reached out for, I was just telling my therapist this yesterday. I reached out for
what do you need a therapist for? You can just come in here.
I know. You just come in here an hour every week. But I reached out for like metaphysical self-help type books, to work on myself and who I am and all that. And so by the time I came back freshman year, the dynamic isn't the same as the tiny little middle school. Like it was totally different. I was ashamed and, embarrassed and like, I kind of got new friends and, and I just, you get older and mature and deal with things in different ways. And
yeah, but I'm assuming you didn't talk to any of those girls in high school about that.
No, I had never talked about it since then. It never even got brought up until that day when we were celebrating our friend's wedding and we were kind of tipsy and was like, remember that time you were a bully? And I was like, oh my God.
So I'm curious if the other girls in the class didn't see that as such a traumatic event. They were just like, oh, yeah, we can tell her how we feel.
Yeah, I'm sure that they didn't, for them it was different. I don't know. Actually, I do wonder like what their perceptions on that were. But the fact that even if they didn't see it as traumatic, the fact that they remember that day to bring it up years later when we're celebrating an engagement for one of our friends means that it meant something to them.
Yeah, it's stuck in their head.
It's stuck in their head too.
They'll probably never forget it.
And even one of the guys I had seen years later, I hadn't seen him after high school, he even brought it up like after that incident. It was after the engagement more recently. But I think that's the one thing they might remember from their middle school time, and for me, I thought I had stuffed it away, and I had actually even went back to go sub for Rio Del School one day, and I hopped from classroom to classroom, and I worked alongside her for a couple periods and had a really nice conversation with her. And even in high school with FFA, I went back to her in the classroom to talk to some of the students about FFA. And in high school, both in high school and a couple years ago, I had thought, I'm over it now. Like, I'm better. I'm over it. And I realized I'm not over it. And it took me so many years to realize that I think I would be in a different place today had that experience not happened. Because I have done so much self-sabotaging to avoid any jobs or positions or careers where I had to speak to peers. I can speak to a high school class. I can speak to a 4th grade class. I can speak to a group of total strangers. Like I did when I was in a pageant in high school. A room full of strangers. But I cannot, for the life of me, stand up in front of, say, even the teachers for a staff meeting and say a word without feeling shaky, sweaty, stick to my stomach. I cannot. So, and even some of the speeches I had to give in college, or some of the presentations, should I say, was horrific in my mind. And I could not ever figure out, like, why can I not speak to a room full of peers or like my friends? Like, I'm scared to death, but it all leads back to that one time when I was 11 or 12, I had no one to turn to, and a room full of my peers totally did a whole shakedown on me, you know, and I don't know. Maybe it doesn't sound as traumatizing out loud, but holy crap in me,
in the moment.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough.
Yeah. And I really think it's shaped the many failures that I've had in careers and jobs, and like just the constant like self-sabotage, failure, not pursuing opportunities, you know, giving up opportunities, like going, I don't know, like, you know what I mean? I don't know. And it took me a long time to even make that connection to, oh, wow.
So when I assume that you know who the bullies are in your class, what do you do about them?
With my own students?
Yeah.
I actually don't.
You're like, hey, Michael, come stand up here in the front of class. Everyone's going to talk shit about you.
No. No, I don't look at any of them as bullies.
Do you see any bullying? Do you notice any bullying? Or do you think that what others consider bullying, you're just like, man, that's not that bad. They're just growing. Like, what's your perception of bullies?
That's a really good question.
Yeah, because there's got to be bullies there.
No, I see it. I think of it differently. Okay, so it's pretty interesting. We did a school climate-wide survey and found out that the teachers think there's more bullying happening at the school than the students think. So the students of this day and age...
When did they do this?
Like this summer.
Oh, okay.
Like, no, we talked about it this summer. It happened last school year, towards the end of the year, the survey. It's the perception of the definition of bullying.
Right.
And they think of it as a physical pushing or like a physical bullying. Whereas we interpret it as maybe social media, you know, so kind of ganging up in a classroom, verbal, you know, leering and laughing at someone, like rolling their eyes, like, oh, you're so dumb. Like that kind of stuff to me is kind of like, okay, I could see a power play going on here, whatever, you know, for just as an example, like I'm just thinking of examples. But I think our definition of bullying is different than their definition of bullying. But I don't look at any of my students and think of any of them as a bully. Right. There's been a couple incidences where I've talked to students.
Is it because they're young and you just know that?
No, it's because I think I see them as people. Like, I don't know how that Miss Steiner like looked at me and thought of me. Yeah. But when I see my kids.
Well, I know when I see youth, I see innocence.
Yeah.
You know, just because you did something bad doesn't mean you're bad. Just because you were a bully doesn't mean you're a bad person. Yeah. You know, so maybe that's a perception that you have. You're just like, well, just because you said something rude doesn't mean you're a bully. Yeah. You know, and you just kind of let it slide.
When I look at them, like the couple incidences that I've seen, I just think there's a lot of layers to it. You know what I mean? You have to think about the complexity and the layers and the dynamic of the relationship between the students, right? And I'm aware of that. And then I also think I just feel sympathy. Like there has to be a lot going on at home or something behind the scenes. And and I've had to talk to a couple students definitely, but yeah, just pull them out,
what's your
pull them off to the side. You just pull them off to the side and say like, this could so I always, the couple conversations that I have, I say everything's perception. And even though you may not think you have said anything bad or that anybody else said anything bad, it's just all based on how the other students might have perceived it or another student has perceived it. So we just have to approach it in that way, and that everything is perception. So even though you might be justified or might not, how the other person took it is, what we address here. So that's how I approach it. But there's been no like major issues, just a couple,
right.
Like if they said a comment that was like not appropriate or like was like, oh, that could have been seen as like maybe not nice, like that kind of thing. But I have not looked and thought of anyone as like that person is a bully at all.
I'm curious now that everyone has a video capturing device in their pocket, that physical bullying is on the decline because someone could capture that and you could get in trouble, like slamming a kid into a locker, you know what I mean? Whereas if you just call them mean words and berate them a little bit, there's more slide, there's more, gut punch there. There's a little bit more damage going on where the bully can feel a little bit more proud of himself that he was able to do that rather than cause physical damage and have evidence that he did it and be in trouble and, you know what I mean?
Thing. Yeah.
I'm curious. That's interesting.
I don't know. That is interesting, actually. I don't really know. And I know a lot happens on social media that we're not even aware of. I think a lot of things will happen on Snapchat.
Oh, yeah. Like
and
what?
Because anybody can comment back. So if you put something on your story, anyone can comment back and be like, you're dumb. Or, I don't know. I'm just making it up. But you open that up to that public criticism. Whereas if you did something in the classroom, there's only about 25 other students around you who could criticize in that moment, whereas if you open it up on your Snapchat, well, depending on how many followers you have, and a lot of students will comment back things that may not be nice, but it goes away in a second, so, and I think there's a lot of that when I say the complexity of the layers that's going on, there's a lot of that going on that like we don't necessarily see, and they might not necessarily perceive as bullying, but it could be the start to something. You know what I mean? I don't know. I am so not an expert in that field.
Yeah,
I can't even.
But I mean, you deal with it on a day to day.
Yeah. And it's just like trying to conflict resolution, like I do what I can in the classroom, but the rest of that, I just leave up to the counselors. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Like, there's so much to it. Perception's everything.
Perception is everything.
It is. It really is. I mean, it's crazy. It really is. Yeah.
Oh shit, we're an hour into it.
Oh, are we really?
Yeah. Well,
anything else we should?
No, let's close out. I mean, plug your businesses. What do you? I mean, other than no one can apply to go be in your class. You have to be a student. But what's the name of your photography business? Is that off the ground or is that still?
Yeah, no, it's HW Fine Art Photography. And I'm thinking about changing it to encompass more of something like wholesome and capture more of people's passions and businesses. And I just haven't made that change quite yet, but I'm definitely going to pursue that really, really hard once I'm finished wrapping up taking all these tests. So I took one 3-hour test today. I have another test on Halloween and another test in November. And then once I kind of wrap that up, I really want to hit head first into photography and then finish up. I'm working on my last and final real estate course because I have the summers off and the weekends. We have lots of sports on campus that I would love to shoot. And so I really want to be like a teacher entrepreneur. And all my students, they keep joking like, Miss Watkins, when you're rich, are you going to buy us Redwood Cafe? Like when you're rich, will you buy us all shots? And I'm like, absolutely. Like when I'm rich. And the other day I was like, oh guys, I'm not rich yet. And they were like, oh, see what she said yet? Like she's going to be rich someday.
She's getting there.
So I'm not, I even throughout college, and even when I was not in college, I always had 2 jobs. So I either worked at Sports Authority and I worked at Starbucks, both at the same time. And then I actually was a substitute teacher and I dealt cards at Bear River Casino at the same time. And I would work double days. Like that's when or I go to college and I was raising Ryder and working. So that's when I'm the happiest, is when I have
shit to do,
like multiple lives going on.
Right.
And I've always been the unhappiest when I didn't have anything going on or I just worked one job. Like I've noticed that. So I'm just doing it. Like all summer I was battling an internal battle. Like, should I be a real estate agent? Should I be a teacher? Should I just do photography? And then I just came to me and was like, one day out of nowhere was like, I'm making my decision today. When that day come, I was like, I'm going to do all of them. Mm-hmm. Why not?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I'm just going to do all of them. Yeah. That's just what
like I noticed I referenced Bill Gates earlier, but I'll go with the female version. What does Oprah do?
Everything.
Everything.
That's so true.
So just do it all.
I'm just going to do everything. And I cannot wait to have the money to funnel into my classroom and have all these great things for my kids, or like spoil them, and I'm just going to do it. I'm doing it. So,
yeah. Well,
yeah.
Heather,
be a teacher entrepreneur.
Teacher entrepreneur. No. That's a good one.
Yeah. Brother.
Yeah. Heather, sister. Well, I love you. Thank you for coming on. You're my very first female. Look at you.
First female podcast, Humboldt. So when you are rich.
Yeah. And state for the record, if you do come to Humboldt, you will be humbled.
Yeah.
Yes. It just happens.
If you come to Humboldt, you will be humbled. That's true. It's true. It happens.
The trees are big. The air is fresh.
You'll be humbled.
Yeah, and you'll be humbled.
The ocean's cold.
Oh, yeah.
We never even talked about that.
I know. There's just so much to talk about.
I know.
This thing it'll kill it like an hour and 15 minutes. The battery will die.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So yeah. So at an hour, I just try and cut it.
Yeah. Well, next podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Handshake to finish it. I know females don't do that too often.
High five.